What's up, everyone? I'm your spiritual gardener, here to plant seeds of consciousness in your garden. It's just your job to water them. So today, July 1st, we have Saturn going retrograde back into Capricorn. So what does this mean? So as soon as Saturn went retrograde in Aquarius, this is really when we kind of saw the turbulence of the collective kind of joining together and standing up for justice. And in Aquarius, it represents humanitarianism. Saturn alone represents justice in itself. So now moving back into Capricorn, where we just had this energy for quite some time. You know, when it was in Capricorn, we saw a lot of political stuff happening, you know, and moving back into Capricorn, we're going to be seeing a lot of that same energy again. It's basically going to leave us to review everything that supports the foundation of our structures, obligations, goals, boundaries. So all of those things. Justice is one of the key words here as well. And you know, in Capricorn, it does represent justice. Capricorn is much, you know, it's a boss here in Capricorn. So Capricorn is a very authoritative figure, and Saturn is as well, because its ruler is Saturn. So Saturn, like I always say, is kind of like the principal or the teacher. You know, it's that class that you're not so excited to take, and you have to work your butt off to get through it. But you know, you might not like the teacher at the end of the day, but if you did the work, you get the A. If you don't do the work, you might have to take the class again. So right now we're retrograding back into that area where we should have learned, you know, quite a few lessons. So this is going to bring up a lot of issues surrounding status, control, authority, and since it's already been here, this is going to be like a double whammy this time. So it's really going to be like shaking us up into, okay, what did you learn here? What did you learn here? So it's kind of like going to summer school, okay? It's like you kind of missed a little bit, so you have to go back now. The main word here is respect. That's the key word for Saturn being retrograde in Capricorn, okay? Anytime a planet goes retrograde, it's a time for us to reevaluate things. So we want to put a new perspective on them. And being in Capricorn, it's meeting up with Pluto, Jupiter, and those are the two that, you know, you don't want it to meet up with. Jupiter is a benefic planet, but when it's with two malefic planets, it expands on it. So Jupiter is the expansive planet. It's, you know, considered good luck, but it can also be considered lazy in its bad attributes. So it's expansion. So anytime it's next to a planet, such as Pluto representing death and rebirth, it makes it even bigger. Saturn representing rules and structures, it amplifies that as well. So these three meeting up is something astrologers have anticipated for quite some time, okay? So it's not going to be the easiest of energy here. And a big thing we have coming here on the 4th of July, go figure, is an eclipse. So we are having a lunar eclipse in Capricorn and Cancer. It's going to be at about 13 degrees. So the eclipse will be in Capricorn and Cancer at about 13 degrees, and it's going to be making its start of its eclipse at about 8 to 8:07 p.m. Pacific time. It'll actually be reaching its peak at about 9:30 or so Pacific time, and its ending will be around 10:50 to 11 o'clock Pacific time. So you know, this whole energy is very it's a big deal. It's a big deal because the whole start of the eclipse season that we had in July, it was July 13th of 2018. This is going to be ending that chapter. So the last about 2 years worth of energy that we just went through, which were the absolute craziest 2 years of my life, and I'm sure for many of you, because the planets that we had were, I mean, we haven't seen this type of energy since the 1200s and 1500s, and even then it wasn't this intense, okay? So it really is going to be finalizing that whole energy that we were just dealing with. So being said with that, it's going to be initiating our new energy, which is the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius, okay? So, you know, this whole time that we had, you know, the past 2 years with the North Node in Cancer, the South Node in Capricorn, it was a big time period that shifted our public perception of safety. And it also ruled authority. So there was a kind of a balance in between these two here. So it did teach us, or should have taught us, a lot about, you know, our boundaries and our self, and, you know, prioritizing our own needs, and, you know, like, because Cancer represents home, family life, all of those things. So Capricorn is authority, structure, you know, rules. It's all the things we kind of want to get away from for the most part, but this will be the final cap on that. So all that crazy energy that we just dealt with the last 2 years, it's going to be finalizing it with these eclipses. The crazy thing now, though, is that we do not have the South Node here in Capricorn anymore. So South Node represents endings. And it was a little easier to get through the energy, you know, so to say, with these meaner planets, with the South Node here, but with it no longer here for this kind of like protection in a way, we are going to be forced to face this energy. So, like I said, you know, Saturn and Pluto are the two meanest of the whole zodiac. And Pluto represents death and rebirth. So, you know, at the end of the day, you're rebirthing to new things. And Saturn is that, you know, figure that's pointing the finger at you, making sure you're doing things right. And in turn, it does have its payoffs, it does have its benefits, but it's not easy. And with Jupiter here, it's going to be very expansive. So it's not going to be the easiest. But like I said, this is going to be activating the North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius energy fully. This will be the big stamp on it, okay? So what you're going to want to do is you want to see any planets that you have around 13 degrees of any of the cardinal signs. And our cardinal signs are Capricorn and Cancer, also Gemini and Libra. So you really want to focus on what planets you have there and kind of see if there's going to be anything affected by it, because if it's anywhere near 13 degrees, you will be feeling it a little bit more than others, okay? I think I said Gemini was a cardinal sign. That's wrong. Scratch that. Aries, okay? So if you have anything at around 13 degrees of Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, or Libra, you want to pay attention to any planets that you have there. They will be affected a little bit more harshly, okay? Now, one thing with this, you know, this eclipse is what you want to do is during the eclipse, you basically take a snapshot of what's going on in the sky, kind of like how we do with our birth charts when we're born, okay? And that similar theme is going to be playing out during the duration of this North and South Node being in Gemini and Sagittarius, which will be about another 15 and a half, 16 months, okay? So it's going to be persisting for a while. It's still at 29 degrees right now. And, you know, when it moved in there is when we kind of, this whole energy kind of started up with all, you know, the pandemic and everything else. So this is really going to be putting a stamp on it. Now, at the same time, while this eclipse is going on, we're going to have Mars making a square to the North and South Node, okay? So that's a challenge. That's quite a challenge, because Mars, I mean, it belongs in Aries, and that's where it is right now. But Mars represents war. Mars is a malefic planet, okay? So Mars represents war, it represents ego, it represents fear, aggression, anger, all of those things that we embody as a human that we try to fix or you know, mend for the most part. With Aries squaring the South Node in Sagittarius, it means that our identity is going to be suffering a bit from a lack of hope. Like, you know, after the dark, there's always hope after the dark. That's kind of like a Sagittarius thing. So that's, you know, we are going to have a little bit of questioning there, questioning if there really is hope after the dark. And pretty soon here, towards July 11th, for the first time that any of us have ever, I mean, any of us have been alive, definitely, We will have I'm not sure if any of us, since we've been alive, but anyway, Mars is going to be on top of Chiron, okay? Now we discovered Chiron in the 70s, the later 70s, so we have not personally been aware of this energy before now. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, okay? And in Aries, it represents our self, our identity, our ego, how we look, the thoughts we have on ourselves, okay? So when Mars is here, the warrior, on top of that, it's creating a lot of turbulence. So, it's definitely a time that we want to slow down. We don't want to let ourselves, you know, blurt things out that we don't mean. We definitely want to take time, you know, if there's, you know, an email that you got or a text message that you got that has you all riled up and heated, take the time, maybe take a day, then go back to it and respond. Just don't act out of bluntness, because that will be a lot of ego based, okay? And you know, a lot of astrologers and just everybody wants to talk about ego and this and that. You know, we all have an ego. Everybody has an ego, period. It's the duality of life. It's the yin yang, okay? Everybody has one, so the point is mastering it. It's we don't want to deny that we have an ego, but we want to be able to work with our ego and not, you know, live in this shame and feel guilt and whatnot. We really want to be able to have an outsider's perspective of ourselves and work through this type of energy. Now Aries represents our head, okay? Literally our head. It's the ram. And Sagittarius represents our legs, okay? So when we have a square aspect, like I said, it's a 90-degree angle, it boxes you in. Square is a very hard aspect to have in astrology. So imagine your head and your legs not getting along, okay? Now, you can't get far. I mean, where are you gonna go? You cannot really get far if your mind is not connected to your legs and telling yourself to go forward, to move, to walk. So this is gonna be quite the battle. It's gonna be quite the battle that we do have to, you know, go inward with and be able to face and be able to be headstrong through this and work through this energy, okay? You know, squares can cause us to be very defensive on our beliefs. Very defensive on our beliefs, and even more so when the South Node is in Sagittarius and the North Node's in Gemini. So in my other videos, I've talked about this, you know, the South Node, North Node aspect. And South Node in Sagittarius is the guru, it's the teacher. But South Node means endings. It's the dragon's tail, okay? K2 and Rahu, the dragon's mouth. So it's the node they represents the node of the moon, and the North Node, our direction that we're going towards, is in Gemini. So that's the dragon's head. It's eating, okay? The tail end is what's being pooped out, and that's on Sagittarius, unfortunately, right now. So we are not meant to be the guru right now. We're not meant to be the teacher. We're not meant to be schooling people. We are meant to be listening right now. Okay, so having squares on top of the nodes, especially with Mars, it already makes us defensive of our beliefs. And South Node in Sagittarius is defensive of their beliefs. It's the know-it-all, okay? So like I tried explaining, the beginning degrees that we're in right now are very critical. The ending degrees are always critical as well. But it's like we're just getting our diapers on in the beginning, okay? So it's like an 18-month cycle that the nodes stay in each sign. So each month, we're growing up about 1 year in age. So we're about 2.5 years old right now with this energy that's going on. So that's like a little dictator in Sagittarius, kind of telling everybody what to do and this and that. No, this is the right way. Oh no, your tea is this brand, well it should be that brand. You get my point, okay. Now, with the North Node being in Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the messenger of the gods, okay? It's the closest to the sun. It's not benefic or malefic, it's neither. And, you know, Gemini tends to get a bad rap. Oh, it's evil and good, you know, it's the the double-headed twin and one's bad and one's good. No, it's the yin yang. You need both to embody, okay? It's just how it works. It's duality. So we're being asked now to listen, okay? Because Gemini rules the 3rd house of communication. And Mercury communicates with the sun all the time. That's how we get our messages. Mercury rules communication. It rules our mind, our thoughts. So this is not a time to be preaching to people. It's a time to be listening, okay? And if someone else is being that preacher, just have discernment and just, okay. You know what I mean? Just because sooner than later, people will realize that it's time to listen up. It's not time to act like you know everything, because I don't even know everything about my own study of astrology. Okay? Everybody has an area that they can learn in. No matter what you are, no matter how professional you are at it, there's still a small room to grow. So this is that time to grow, okay? So this is a big lesson in integrating our warrior aspect more gracefully, because Mars is squaring the North and South Node. So it's really a time for us to learn how to not, be so fussy about things, to kind of put on our big girl, big boy pants and face things without so much ego. And by ego, I mean not reacting right away with harshness or anger. It's really a time to reflect, take in all the aspects like a Gemini would. Gemini plays devil's advocate to themselves. So I have a Gemini moon, so I'll think of a theory, and then I'll go ahead and I'll rebuttal it, all within the same few minutes. Okay, that's Gemini. It's like the mad scientist in a way. It's just trying to learn. And with the Sagittarius energy, a lot of you Sagittariuses, there will be a big awakening for you guys going through your planets. I just had this happen to me in Capricorn, and my goodness, it's not going to be easy. But I can tell you, I've grown the most over these last 2 years, and I have my whole life. So there's a lot of room for growth. If you have any planets in Sagittarius, don't be scared, but it's going to bring you lots of growth. And if you have planets in Gemini, it's also going to bring you a lot of growth, and it's going to help you. More so lessons in Sagittarius, though, okay? Now, the North Node in Gemini, South Node Sagittarius, it's urging us to master the principle of communication, because Gemini rules communication, okay? And it's wanting us to put discernment on information and how it's shared. So we really want to, like I said, take things in, listen, wait, then go about expressing yourself or whatnot. So this is going to be a big lesson on listening. And gonna be a big lesson for me too, because as a Gemini moon, we kind of like to blurt things out. We don't have as much patience, and we have so many thoughts going on at one time. Any of my Gemini moons can relate that sometimes we need to interrupt people to kind of get out what we need to say. So this will be a lesson for me too, in learning to breathe, listen, and then let it flow. Another thing with this eclipse is Venus and Mars. They're going to be making a sextile. Okay, and so this is going to set the stage to add much more harmony in our relationships throughout this, the next whole eclipse cycle that we have going on. So this is going to bring us into much more harmony, which is much needed after this crazy retrograde we had with Venus that was pretty intense, okay? Because we had an eclipse on that retrograde. So this is going to finally be leveling it out, and relationships and stuff can be a little bit more harmonious. Our patience and such will be a little bit more flowy. Another thing is Uranus will be sextile to the Sun and Mercury, and that's going to help us with discernment. Discernment of harmonizing our higher mind and our lower mind. Okay? Because Uranus is the rebel in a sense, and Mercury and the Sun are our soul and our mind. So when they make good aspects together like it will during this eclipse, it is going to help us with discernment with, like I said, the higher and lower mind. And the beginning of October, about October 4th to be exact, Also, the beginning of November, the energy of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, sorry, will be felt much more intense, okay? Because the planets will be done going retrograde and they're going to be moving forward again now, ready to sweep back in the other direction. So, during this time too, we're also going to have Mars that'll be squaring the Sun. That's going to be in October. So that's going to make, add a little bit of aggression. It's also going to be adding a square over to all the planets that we have in Capricorn. And, as an astrologer, we don't like to talk about, all the bad things that can happen or whatnot. But in all reality, when I read someone's birth chart, I don't leave out negative aspects. I give it all. I give it all. And that's part of being a hermetic astrologer, because I do have, my moon in Gemini, which is ruled by Hermes or Mercury. And I'm here to just lay out the truth. Black and white all together. Don't shoot the messenger, as I have said again and again. Do not shoot the messenger. That is the big thing during this North Node in Gemini. So, with it making a square aspect to this energy, just to put it out there, this is a time that we can possibly see war, okay? And no, it's not something I want to talk about. No, it's not something I'm hoping for. But in the past, and history repeating itself because of astrology, we have seen civil wars during this time, okay? We do feel a buildup of energy. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're still in quarantine. I am too, but I'm just saying, you can feel the energy. So around October 4th, the energy will get intense again. It's not going to lay off being intense here for quite a while. Also again, in November. So November, we're going to have Neptune that makes squares to the nodes. And Neptune making a square to the nodes can make us kind of delusional in a sense, okay, of the direction that we're trying to go in. So we might lose that for a little while. So remember now that we're not supposed to be the preacher, the teacher, we're the student, we're taking in the info. So that might get a little lost in translation towards, beginning of November. The other thing is Venus will also be squaring all the crazy energy that'll be in Capricorn. So I'm predicting, something around October 4th to November 9th and so on. So just putting it out there because, like I said, I share all of what I see in astrology. I'm not trying to just sugarcoat things. So be prepared. In this, I think it's December 16th, December 15th, 16th, we'll have Saturn and Jupiter, okay? They will be met up together in Aquarius. So December 16th, we can start to breathe a bit easier. So we'll definitely get a lot lighter from then. And moving back into Aquarius, it represents humanitarianism, okay? So it's going to be a lot happier when it gets to that point, and we can get over all of this crazy energy. But for now, be ready for a big 4th of July. And I'm not talking about the fireworks. Look up at the sky and look at those fireworks, okay? Look at those stars that are aligning to make this energy fully in effect. So I do want to put that warning out there for everybody. Our attitudes will be a little bit more high-strung because Mars does that to us. Mars, like I said, belongs in Aries. Aries is that hard-headed ram. Aries represents war and ego, and Mars represents war and ego. It represents all the things that its owner represents. So be ready. Just be ready. Know that if you're a little bit more on edge than normal, you as well as the rest of us are, okay? So we do need to learn to work through this energy. This is going to be a big time for the collective to learn how to relax a little bit and learn how to use better judgment and not so much of the yang energy, more of the yin energy. So we want to really try to just calm down. Right now would be a great time to practice meditation if you don't or haven't, okay? So that's what the eclipse is going to be bringing for us. I will have some more videos up here pretty soon for you guys. But for now, I love you all. Don't take this lightly, okay? This eclipse will be big. I will be home. Yes, I'm not going to be out in that energy. But, you know, do what you will. Just make sure that you are safe for the 4th of July, okay? I love you all.